Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby. I can't even say rugby. Never mind. Aotearoa. Jeez, where am I going to? Hello, folks. Yeah, Super Rugby Aotearoa has kicked off. We've had round one. The Highlanders have played the Chiefs. The Blues have played the Hurricanes. And Stephen, hasn't it been great just to have rugby back?
It's been tremendous. And it's always easier to say that when your teams come out on the right side of the results. But hey, we got great crowds, great atmospheres, great rugby. The world's watching. Everything's good, isn't it? Everything's great to be here in New Zealand. What else could you possibly want?
Exactly. How about some warm weather?
It's winter. No.
To be fair, I was on a campsite this weekend, and it was nice and warm. We had heating in the cabin, so it was all good. It did chew up my data though. Watching this game, the first game, I went through something like 4 gig of mobile data to get this. So I was on 17, and yes, I'm down to about 13. So clearly, I don't be doing that too often, folks. So yes, pro tip number 1: don't try and watch games using your phone as a hotspot going forward. But look, this one kicked off, and it really kicked off, and both sides struggled early doors, let's be honest, with the new law interpretations, didn't they? It was quite a whistly game in that first half.
Yeah, well, the whole match kind of wasn't it? I guess people will probably say the whole weekend really was, but I don't know, to me, I didn't find it the whole game. I haven't seen all. I've seen highlights only the Blues game, which I just watched now. I've been at work all day, so that's my excuse. But the Highlanders game I saw, I didn't find it too interrupting that I'd find from a normal Super Rugby game from earlier in the year or last year or things like that. It seemed pretty standard. Yes, there was new things being given penalties for, but I didn't find it overly overwhelming of the game being ruined by these penalties. And I thought, to be fair to the referees, they were very, well, in the Highlanders game at least, were very consistent about what was being called. So there was no one way and the other. It was both sides getting nailed for the offside line, both teams getting nailed for moving after going to ground. It was consistent throughout, and I thought I couldn't criticise them. I'm normally the first to criticise a ref if things go pear-shaped, but I thought it was pretty fairly judged, and it went quite well.
Across both games, the refs had good games, right? Now, so people who, and this was particularly the commentators, had to go at them for this, was on Twitter. They went and said, look, I don't want to blame the refs. But I do hope they're going to be more considerate later on over the next few games. Like, no. The whole point of this is be strict. The players will learn quickly, and they'll react. Now, folks, for everyone who is on there, hi Thomas, hi Cameron, who's in the live chat. Great to have you here on the different platforms. Hi, Alex as well. Great to have you all in the live chat there. I've got Stephen or Cornflake on for just one game only. Okay, that's the first game because he hasn't watched the second game. I do have 2 gents who have seen the second game, so we will be talking about the second game with Ashwin and Stephen. Ashwin was at Eden Park, but before we get on to that, let's just actually say hello to the folks because otherwise it's a bit rude. Good evening, Ashwin. How are you doing?
Oh yeah, I'm sort of like I was all in bed and I was ready to have some Zeds, and I thought I'll better get on and have a chat. So I'm doing good.
In bed at 8 p.m. Jeez. Okay, fine. We'll mute you. Move on now to Stephen. Hey, Stephen. How you doing? You've got your cocoa there. Good to see. You've seen both games.
Shall I start with the birthdays? And birthdays this morning. Oh, hang on, it's evening. Sorry, I've left. This is evening, isn't it? Okay, just wanted to make sure. I have seen both games, and I did hear a little bit about what Steve was saying a bit before, and I totally agree with him. I actually, for the first time in my life, I'm actually going to agree with Stephen Jones, the Times Online writer, who actually enjoyed the game. And I think while we may look at Paul Williams and think he was a bit pedantic, he was actually penalising players for doing illegal things. And unfortunately,
we right there. Everyone else on the podcast is going, no, he was not.
No, I'm agreeing. I was agreeing with my head shaking. I'm agreeing with Steve. I'm agreeing with both Steves actually. This is a hobby horse that I've had for a long time, right? So I've been on this for what 2.5 years, through Driving Mall and now through New Zealand Sport Radio, and I've always gone on about the fact is that the referees need to referee by the letter of the law, and eventually the players will learn. Yeah, we might go through some crap games, but in the end of the day, I don't think the games were actually that crap at all. I thought they were actually good games, and we're getting what we want, which is the laws are there. The players need to understand this is the law. I need to abide by it.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. I don't think any of us, no one here is saying he was pedantic. No, he wasn't pedantic. He was doing his job.
Doing his job.
Yeah, I think we're all, yeah, absolutely. Look, the referees, great this weekend. Anyone who says, oh, I hope they have some more understanding and blah, blah, blah later on, go away.
They don't get it.
They don't get it.
Well, they don't get it. They don't understand what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to achieve the fact that players follow the rule book and don't take the P, basically.
And I think the big thing from the weekend's matches was that what you saw got penalised. You could see clear as day is what got penalised. It was obvious, it was just plain to see. It wasn't like, oh, what's that for? What he put his little finger on 6 blades of grass. Oh, I didn't see that. No, it was straightforward. It was plain and clear, and it's like, well, yeah, he did do that. Okay, well, cool.
I like the one in the Highlanders Chiefs games. I can see the player being lifted, and it's like we've screamed at that, haven't we? We've screamed at the television for so long, saying he's got his hands on the ball and he's holding it in. If a player on the ground is being lifted up, he's holding on to the ball. As simple as that.
So so basically, what we're saying here is, look, guys, the focus should not be on the refs. Okay, good games are where we don't talk about the refs, and we shouldn't. And so for here is. There may have been penalties in these games, and there were quite a few, but it's not. But let's talk about the players not obeying the laws, rather than the referees are blowing the whistle too much. No, it's not that at all. It's about this is definitely on the players, not on the referees. Unless Stephen Harris, you're disagreeing with that.
No, I agree with everything that's being said. And the great thing about it, you actually saw a little shift with the two teams that played this afternoon. It was quite noticeable that the Blues, when their carriers were hitting the ball forward, the cleaners were right there. It's one great thing. Tom Robinson did a great job this afternoon. Whenever they were basically hitting the ball up, the cleaners were right there. If you think back to last night's game, they were probably about a second off and just gave the fetcher just a little bit too much time over the ball. So in effect, it's up to the players to make those adjustments. And I'm sure once they figure it out, it's up to them to work it out. Obviously, there's a couple of guys, Gus Solakula, the number 8 for Chiefs, didn't figure it out very quickly because I think he gave away about 2 or 3 penalties in the space of a couple of minutes, and it is very noticeable. And the other thing is your penalty count stacks up really, really, really quickly. That's the other reason not to. As for the offside line, they're policing that really well. And the other area is side entries. Boy, they're hitting hard on the side entries. And it doesn't matter whether you're Baden Barrett coming in from the side, you've got to come in through the gate. How often have we watched that? From an inconsistent point of view, hey, man, that guy came in from the side and it never gets noticed. You think back to the Brodie Retallick injury last year against South Africa when he was cleaned out by the side. Not that I hold any grudges or anything. Just saying, clean up that area, but it's up to the coaches and the players to sort it out. Okay, that's been a great show, guys. I'll catch up with you guys later.
Cool. The only person to give more than 2 penalties in that game. So clearly, as you say, the player that wasn't picking out what wasn't picking it up. So yeah, so it was a bit disjointed early on, and we did have a period towards the end of the first half where we had 5 penalties in 8 minutes, which shows you players. Seriously, guys, if you get the message, really was on there. Now, Kuroi, that yellow card. I thought he was lucky to get away with the yellow and didn't get a red there for that tip tackle. Now, okay, Cornflake, with the Highlanders glasses on, give us your opinion.
On just the yellow card, I mean, both the yellow cards, I'll skip ahead and say they're both pretty fair. I find a red card has to be really maliciously, sort of bad thing to get a red card to me, especially probably now more so maybe that's changed a little bit with the whole rule change. But to me, a yellow card is if you're going in and absolutely taking a guy's head off, if you're cleanly dropping him straight on his head from around your shoulder side sort of height, that's straight red. That was a frustration tackle from Karoi, was it? He just kind of couldn't get the big guy down. He just thought, I'm just going to wipe out his legs and just do whatever I can. It was a stupid. It was wrong, but it wasn't putting the guy's health in danger or anything like that. So, I mean, yeah, it was borderline, but to a fair yellow, definitely. No question about that. But I find people a little bit too excited about going to the red card in situations like that, just because, yeah, it was bad. But, yeah, let's keep the game sort of nice.
Okay. Arthur and Stephen, are you okay there, or are some of you there going?
Technically, so the thing is that what Steve's talking about is fair comment, really, sort of thing. But what they've shifted to is the fact is that even when it's a genuine mistake as opposed to malicious play, they've been moving to red cards. This is prior to COVID shutdown, right? So whether it's Northern Hemisphere or in our Super Rugby competition before COVID shutdown, was that they're moving to all the onus is on the defensive player or the player infringing to make sure that they don't put the person in a dangerous position. If they do, and there's certain criteria, it's a red card. Based on pre-COVID, both of those were red cards.
To be honest with
you, what I'm saying is that's okay. I mean, like you're right, that Karoi one in particular, he has lifted the leg, but you'd be pretty hard pressed to say that player was going to get injured in any bad way. But all I'm saying is that if that's the new norm, that's fine. That's what we talk about new norms these days, right? It's just like if that's the new norm, we just have to make sure it's consistent in the way that it proceeds forward.
You could have easily watched both of those yellow cards and been both given red. Yep. And we're probably having the same conversation saying, okay, that's fair enough, but I think it could have been the other. They're both kind of borderline on either side.
No, look, absolutely. But what I'm saying is the fact is that we've got a line in the sand, and we just got to make sure that we now police everything like that. And then we'll talk about this later. I thought whilst we, again, it's not about having a go at the referees. What we want to see is just consistency across the board. And I felt that there was slight differences in the way that the game was managed or reffed last night versus tonight, sort of thing. So, and it's just that's what we want is just consistency and about how it's approached. You're going to have mistakes from everybody, and the referee's going to make a mistake. That's okay. But on the whole of it, you want to see consistency across that.
Yeah. Now so I also think the Saturday night game, we had plenty of errors. 10 turnovers by the Highlanders, but 14 by the Chiefs. Yeah, way too many turnovers there. And both sides really didn't handle restarts very well. Neither side seems to be able to exit their own 22 when they went on the restarts. And that ultimately cost the Chiefs the game in the end. So I think, for me, both sides, quite a lot of early season rustiness there. They haven't managed to break the lockdown that well from that point of view.
I agree with Paul. I agree with that. The other thing is, I thought the Chiefs line-out was a little dysfunctional as well, and they never really gave themselves the opportunity to have a platform to attack. If you and a lot of pressure obviously coming from the Highlanders, but the one occasion that they actually did put it together, boy, they scored a beautiful try. That was Wainui just using the extra man coming into the line, but they just never really got the opportunity.
Yeah, I do like. I've gone blank to the hooker's name for the
Takiaho.
Yeah, Takiaho. Look, really nice around the park, but his lineout's not great. I mean, even at some in the Waikato press box, you can see some of the local guys going, "Ooh, he's gonna have to line out. Hope he's throwing okay today." So he's not the best arrows. Definitely something for him to work on there. So the Highlanders 3 tries to 2. Again, it felt like I also felt like they should have put this game away a bit earlier. For me, I think to have had it still be a 1-point game at that point, when you've scored one more try than the opposition, I thought they perhaps weren't executing quite the way they wanted to either. But Stephen, you've got to be happy with their the way the forward pack have played.
Geez, that's harsh to say. I mean, they had 20 minutes being a man down. They won one of those yellow card periods. And you say they didn't put the game away? The fact that they won this game was, I think, nothing short of maybe a miracle. I mean, the commitment, the ability to stay in it and stay with it and stay focused on that and not drop the heads was, I think, brilliant. And I think it went to show a lot throughout their preparations that they maybe didn't focus too much on having those flashy set-piece moves working so nicely. They didn't have, all that little razzle-dazzle, as Justin Marshall would say, down pat. No, they were fit. They defended well. They structurally were decent enough for the most part, except when they got a little bit broken, they were a little bit shaky. But they got the basics to a point fairly well, better than the Chiefs did. And to go through that game when you've got two men down for 2 10-minute periods and to come away with a result like that, I think is outstanding. And they've got a number of guys that they should be thanking for this as well. On the Chiefs side, I will follow on from what Stephen said before. Koi, the replacement, the second row, I think, although their line-out was an absolute shambles, he was phenomenal off the bench. That guy just was probably the best Chiefs player, I think, on the park. But Marino Makaele too, oh boy, do we have some fantastic number 8s coming through New Zealand rugby at the moment with him in the Highlanders 8. He was fantastic, and we spoke about in the preview how that back row has to stand up. Frizzell was a bit average, but Dylan Hunt and Makaele too, I thought, were just phenomenal, and their performance was outstanding. Josh Dixon in the line out, he was brilliant as well. Ash Dixon, how many times throughout that match did you hear Ash Dixon hitting Josh Dixon, Ash Dixon, Josh Dixon? It was the Dixon show throughout the whole thing. They were amazing, and it was just such a committed performance from the Highlanders. And even at the end, when they nailed that drop goal, mindset, bang, back on it like a tracer bullet. It was just remarkable how they could stay that focused. And who do you credit? I credit the coaching for that. That's just brilliant to get straight back into it and nail it.
I'm gonna chuck something through you, Steve. I don't think Tony Brown was involved pre-COVID. Tony Brown wasn't involved with the Highlanders, right? It's just like I think there's the handprint of Tony Brown on that performance last night by the Highlanders.
Forward-wise, as far as I know, doesn't have much to do with the forward base of that game. I think that's, dare I say it, would be Mark Hammett. And I mean, what a relationship he's had with New Zealand rugby recently. It scares me to say that, but
I'm sort of thinking, some of the ticker type values that just the passion type values that'll, you're right. Tony Brown would be working with the backs most likely, but I'm sure he would have brought some of those, sort of like bottle, for want of a term, values through into the team.
And these aren't guys that would probably sit here and normally go, I expect this guy not to flinch, Like, would you really sit here and say, Bryn Gatlin, he's going to just turn up the heat that last moment? I wouldn't be putting any sense on that to happen at all. I mean, they're not guys that you expect to be clutch, sort of, as we always say of Highlanders. They're the guys you kind of write off. They're not the big names, but you can never question the commitment of the players. And if they keep their heads up all the time, they're always going to be tough to beat, especially down there at Forsyth Bar.
Yeah,
I was about to say, guys, sort of jump in, Paul, but I actually like the look of the midfield pairing that they've got together. Seal Tompkinson and Rob Thompson, 2 really big strapping guys. They get you over the advantage line. That line that Thompson hit to turn the pass on the inside for Tompkinson, I think it was, that was just an absolutely brilliant line. And it's sort of an area where they really hadn't found themselves pre-COVID. I think they'd tampered a little bit with Josh Ioane at second 5. They may have even used Te Horangi Waldron as well. But I just hope they stick to that pairing in the midfield. Hey, I've got to say some really great comms actually coming through on the live chat as well, Paul.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Some wonderful performance, some wonderful comments in that I'm bringing up as well, folks. But so two things to finish us off then. Dylan Hunt, 19 tackles, 1 missed. Yeah, that was what you were talking about, Stephen.
I think one thing we need to actually comment on it is just it's really surprising how poorly that Chiefs pack actually performed when you think about who is their head coach. Now he the hallmark of his team is how the forwards roll forward. And if anything, they had a couple of attacking lineouts 5 meters out, and they didn't get the driving maul going at all. And in fact, they got countered quite well.
A couple of things to point out there. Mitch Brown went down early, so their first 3 choice locks all missing, and then you add your 4th one in there with Brody Retallick. Shows you that they really are down to the bare bones from a locks point of view, and also missing Sam Kane, the captain, as well. Meant there's a pretty young, inexperienced set of Lucy's. So lack of leadership in that pack, and no engine room to speak of.
You got to say that the Chiefs, if they were looking dangerous anywhere, it was when they went out into the backs. And they very, very rarely did it throughout the game, but they could have done so much more of that match. I think they didn't quite realize that they were being not much, but they didn't have the better of the pack battle with the Highlanders.
The most attacking player was Sean Stevenson, and they didn't utilize him enough.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the best and worst of him. We saw some great attacking, and then we saw some of the kind of the
defensive frailties.
Not so much defensive, but the lack of work ethic, where he'll lose the ball and not track back and try and win it back, or not make that pass and try and take it on himself. Yeah, that kind of So, but I thought we saw the best and the worst out of Sean Stevenson last night. But we need to talk about that finish. And we need to talk about it quick because we're running out of time. But 2 drop goals. First off, Damon McKenzie. I saw that and thought, well, hey, we've got drop goals back. This is brilliant. And then they couldn't claim the restart. And then, as you say, Bryn Gatland with a longer drop goal. 2 guys. And what a great way to finish a game with those drop goals and see them back in the game is really it from me.
It's just amazing, isn't it? Like I said on Twitter, this is 2023 Rugby World Cup preparation. Boom, we're underway. We've got the drop goals already started to practice. That's brilliant. Now, it was Mackenzie's. I mean, most players would have been able to slap that over from right in front, but like I spoke about before, it was good that they actually went for that and didn't rely on the penalties. And I think the Highlanders pretty quickly threw out the back door the idea of getting that penalty as well, because they did go a few phases of nudging it sideways a little bit before they eventually went back to Gatland. But what was even more impressive was seeing the return of the Jamie McIntosh days of Southland rugby, with the whole pass it to that guy out with 6 forwards around him and just splat on the floor. It doesn't matter if we lose 20 metres, we'll just close this 1 minute out, no problem. That just takes me back to the 2000s when the Southland did that to Auckland and the Ranfurly Shield and Canterbury and everyone else that they played time and time again. 6 minutes on the clock, no problem. Give it, splat. Give it, splat. Time runs out. Great finish. Great. Southland would have been proud of that one.
So, that'll bring the crowds back.
Winners and grinners. Come on.
Moving on to the Blues versus the Hurricanes. And Cornflake, if you want to drop off, please feel free to stick around.
I have questions.
Now, the big thing about the Blues here, clearly the players have had far too much time on their hands. Patrick Tuipulotu, pink fuzz hair. Sam Nock, the bleached, gone blank's what you call it. Bleached, but only the back bit that's all long. Rika Iwani's got bleached hair. We've got Soakula with Tutu, sorry, with bleached hair.
And non-playing player Kira also had it as well.
Did he as well?
Yep.
Come on, we've got some horrid eggs in there.
Hoskins Satutu actually spoke about that after the game. They interviewed him, and you're on the money there, Paul. They were bored, so they thought they'd have a bit of fun with the hair colours. Simple as that.
Too much spare time.
Spare time, exactly. But mind you, it's like you old fellas like me go, "Oh, it's better than them being on the bloody PlayStation."
If there's a time in your life when you can do it, it's now when they haven't got an office job. So absolutely, but boy, it looks horrid. So, very different start to this game than the other game, because I say in the Highlanders Chiefs couldn't. We had quite a lot of they couldn't get the new rules sorted, whereas actually we had hardly any penalties in the first 10 minutes with the Blues Hurricanes, but lots of kicking. Neither side wanted to play out their own half, did they, Stephen?
You're talking to me. Okay, this is Stephen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to ignore him now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. I was sort of thinking about last night's game and the advantage of probably the players watching last night's game and just seeing what was required in and around those rules. And the pleasing thing for me, especially from a Blues aspect, they had their cleaners right over the top of the carriers all the time. Some of the penalties they were giving away was just really more for side clean outs, wrong entries, players not actually keeping their feet, or else getting their timing, trying to turn timing wrong, trying to turn ball over. But that was the pleasing thing about it. And I think those 10 minutes was really just a feeling out period. Didn't want to play too much rugby in their own half. Just wanted the other team to bring the ball out and see what happens.
Yeah, and I thought that I thought Barrett got some of his early decision making wrong. Ran it into 3 defenders with absolutely no one covering him at one point, which gave early points and early territory to the Hurricanes, which got them the early 3 points in the lead. But that first half for me was about basically the Blues not being able to get out their own half much, but 2 great strikes meant two great strike moves for 2 tries. Ashwin, what was the atmosphere like in that first half? Were people concerned that the Blues just couldn't get out their own half?
No, not overly. I think we were more concerned about the penalties that we're giving away that seemed to stymie their progress. More about that. And it's just like, well, and I suppose that's that thing coming back to what we talked about before, that consistency, because we were watching, hang on, you've got opposition players coming in from the side, because most of the penalties that Steve's alluded to were actually coming in from the side, as opposed to holding on from what we could see. But again, I'm going to have to be honest, it was a bit difficult for us to then review those decisions that were being made because they weren't putting those on the big screen at the ground. So there's a fail on the behalf of that part, because normally they do put up, so we can understand what the infringement was for. So I'll have to be honest, I'll have to watch the replay to see what was going on in those penalties that they were giving away. But there wasn't a sense of panic, coming back to your original, because there wasn't a sense of panic. It felt like when the Blues had the ball, they seemed to be in more control than the Hurricanes were. And when the Hurricanes had the ball, they really, apart from obviously Coles's first try, where they did create something, but that was something pretty quick, and a flaw in the a flaw in the defense which hadn't really been shown there before. So it was pretty calm, to tell you the truth. 1 point ahead at halftime, not time to put panic buttons at all.
Cool.
If anything, going in with confidence into the second half.
So one of the things they talked about about the beginning of this season, or the season before lockdown, was they were going to be playing putting the referee's voice through the speakers. Did they do that then? So you didn't get to hear the ref?
Right. And to be honest, the speakers in the West End have never been that great anyway. So even if they were, it's pretty hard to hear what they're saying. But no, they didn't. And to be honest, I don't really. If they've got a replay up there, we've got. And this isn't in a facetious or sarcastic way. We've actually got a couple of referees around us, and we all sit down and say, "Oh, yep, that's what it's for," and yep, now we can understand that. And then obviously, but they got away with this.
So there's a couple of real referees, and then there's about 1,000 other rereferees in the West.
Absolutely.
So looking at that side though, you've got a good mix here. So you've got Robinson, Goodhue, and Papali'i, who obviously came on quite early for Gibson, all getting through masses of tackling. And then Tongafasi and Parsons helping out there as well. And then on the attacking front, you've got Hoskins Tutu, 17 carries. So it was a good mix there. They've got a good balance, haven't they, Stephen? With that pack now.
The performance of Hoskins Satutu was beast-like, whether he was carrying the ball in hand. But what I do like about him, he really gets himself involved at breakdown. I think he might have got a couple of turnovers as well. Just on the referee and the instructions that he was giving to the players, he was very crystal clear with the players and the infractions that they were giving in terms of the penalties they were giving away. He did have a word to TJ Perenara a couple of times because there was, and this is a concern for the Hurricanes. He's the co-skipper with Dane Coles, but he was obviously throwing a lot of profanities in the way of the official. And I know he got pulled up on more than the second occasion he got a good talking to at that point. Just coming up, one of the it's just popped up. One of the guys said Perenara really pissed off the ref, hurt his team a little, and I think he hurt his team more than a little. And it's not the first time we've actually seen this with TJ. He does lose the plot. On saying that, I was really, from a Dane Coles point of view, he pretty much looked like a Dane Coles of old, if you know what I mean. And I must admit, I cracked up when he pulled Bowden Barrett into the huddle. I reckon that was goals. Seriously.
And Bowden took it very well, but he never managed to sort his hair out again, and I think that impacted his play. He was messed up.
Just on the TJ thing, I think that's a massive concern for the All Blacks. Perenara is losing it in the games. He's losing it in the games. He did that against the Blues when they played down there pre-COVID as well. And I don't know. I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not, Steve, or the guys that watched it might not have more information. I heard what I heard from one of the people around me was that the referee said, I don't want to talk to TJ anymore. I'm only speaking to Gareth Evans. This is after Coles had gone off. If the referee is saying, I don't want to speak to the captain, because he was the captain, because co-captain's gone off, and Gareth Evans is now co-captain, he's saying, I don't want to speak to TJ Perenara, who's the captain. I'm speaking to Gareth Evans. There's a big problem there, and that's going to affect the leadership of that team as well. Surely, he's got to button his lip. I know he's very opinionated outside of rugby as well, and it's just like, dude, you need to pull your head in. That's where it's got to.
I mean, I think on the pitch, but I'd agree. One of the things about off the pitch at the moment, is that he tends to, because he has been a spokesperson in the past, he gets asked all those questions. So to a certain degree, he's now the person.
But the thing is, Paul, he's got a primary job. He's got a job. It is his job, right? And if he's getting worked up about political things off the field, he's got a job to do, and he needs to sort of push that aside and say, okay, I need to focus what's important first, the job, or do I want to become something other than the job? And then he needs to make that decision, because if it's going to affect the team, that's the primary problem, and then you're going to have other issues that we've seen this. And hang on, we've seen this with. We can speak with this with the Blues, right? There's a fact is that, but on different topics in terms of what the leadership issues or player culture within the team, you're affecting the culture of the team if you're starting to make yourself bigger than the team.
Okay, but I think his issues on the pitch with referees has come about when he's been made captain, in the fact that when he's not captain. Yes, he's mouthy, but there's a limit on it because you're not captain. There's only so much you talk.
I'll disagree with you on that one, mate, because he's been pulled up when he's been not captain as well, where the referee has said, TJ, you need to shut it now, because they do let the halfbacks have a chat. They do right. And he actually has been told off when he hasn't been captain and when he has been captain.
And it's just like it's become more prevalent. And I think it's become. I think it's been nearly pretty much every game this year since he's been.
Yeah,
I think it's a problem.
Guys, I was going to say it's all about the banter, isn't it? I know Steve would have seen. I would have enjoyed Aaron Smith last night and his banter with the official last night, and also his banter with Brad Weber as well. I thought they had a great battle, and I think that's what it's all about, isn't it, Steve? What the actual halfbacks are saying to the referees.
Well, I mean, Aaron Smith's probably considered himself a little bit lucky. He didn't get a little bit of a looking at for his tackle on Brad Weber. Little snipey little run he did was, I was praying that they didn't go back and look at that one because it looked pretty bad. But yeah, you guys are right. It is something that's always been around, hasn't it? But we talked about it in the preview pool on Friday or whatever night it was. I can't remember. The days are like each other now. Perenara gets a little bit I think when he gets a bit of a bigger role, maybe captaincy, Paul, you're kind of on the right track, I reckon there. But I think just with having Barrett kind of outside him when he was at the Hurricanes, he had that guy that would take a bit of the pressure. He had a guy he could depend on, and he didn't have that pressure of kind of controlling that back line and directing things that he has now. Now he's got to be there, and he's got to be the guy. He's got to demand, he's got to control. I just don't think he's got the temperament to do that. I think he's kind of a guy who, he has a little nip and he has a little yap. He's a sledger. He should have been a cricket player. But when he has that responsibility, kind of gets the better of him a little bit, I think. And he kind of thinks, well, I've got to stand up now. I've got to make myself heard. And he does kind of take it a bit far. And I think we've seen it in the black jersey quite a bit. And I just think he needs to be a player who's just left alone, play your game. Yeah, have a little snap here or there. But when things get serious, sorry, Cap, the captain deals with this now, because that's where my role kind of ends here. And I think he just needs the pressure off him, although he'll never admit to it or take it on his own back to do that because he wants to be the leader.
You know, we've seen it. We've always commented in terms of the Blues have always had this problem of not knowing how to talk to the referee. You know, they've been on the wrong side of the referee so often. And it's just like you're trying to understand, what does that mean? Because we've just talked about Aaron Smith. Aaron Smith can yap all day to the referee and not upset him. He's doing it the right way. Richie on his Kieran Reid had an issue with it. Kieran Reid didn't have the rapport with the referee that Richie did. So there's obviously an art to it. TJ doesn't have that art.
Yep.
Yeah, and Aaron Smith's a very clever, smart talker, isn't he? He knows what he's talking about, and he directs a lot at his players rather than at the referee. He will absolutely drill his forwards.
He always says it with a smile as well, right? Which makes things always come across better. But quite a lot of time. But anyway, going back to the Blues Hurricanes game, though, to me, basically the Blues, two great attacks, obviously with Rico making good breaks, Caleb Clark getting involved as well. Isn't it great to see him there? The only player to get over 100 meters running with ball in hand this weekend, Caleb Clark. So really impressed with his play. And to me, whilst the Blues came out on the wrong side of the ledger with penalties given away, I thought in that second half they just stopped giving away penalties, and that meant that the Hurricanes weren't getting a piggyback downfield, couldn't get out their own half, and that eventually told with the kick penalties, which put the Blues clear.
Yep, Paul, some really good control from the halves as well. We've just seen Sam Knock finally find himself at this level of rugby, and he just seems to be getting better and better, and he's putting up some really good high kicks or box kicks, but also the speed of his pass that gives the likes of Aotearoa time. And once again, Aotearoa would have probably been going into that match thinking, oh God, I better be at my best, because there's a guy ready to jump into that number 10 position. And I thought those two halves were actually quite superb today. But you could, if you think of that try, that the Caleb Clark try, I thought that was a great bit of skill from Aotearoa Black to throw a pass that had a degree of risk about it and almost looked like it was going to get intercepted, but it actually hit Rico Ioane perfectly, hit him on the chest, and the try was born from there. So I thought that was one of Aotearoa Black's probably, if not his best game for the Blues in a Blues jersey, and it's been consistent all year.
Yeah, I have to agree with Steve there. I sort of think, we've got a halfback that's getting that ball cleared a bit quicker. And, the other thing that not such a big factor today, but the guy that came on to replace Sam Knock, another guy that's got a fast pass and a fast game. So, your likes of your first fives who've always struggled for many seasons in that blue jersey because of the slow delivery from the ruck, from the maul, from the line out, are starting to get snappier ball. And you saw that in some of the tries that were scored today.
I think we're going to see that follow on a bit more too. With what
it's been up here as well, which we didn't see. We didn't see the fly hard to catch the ball up here, bring it down, do something. It's arriving in the right place, which hasn't happened for many years to the Blues. Sorry, Stephen.
No, you're good. With following on what Stephen was saying before, with the rule changes, obviously at the breakdown here, you got your cleaners and that at the rucks having to be right there straight away. You've also, because they've got to place the ball really quickly, and quite often it's going to scoot out the back or it's going to fall out the back and it's going to be a free ball. You got to have a guy there to get rid of it quickly. So your halfback's going to have to get there fast and they're going to have to deliver it straight out because of we did see quite a lot in those games, in the Highlands game especially. Guys are going to ground and they were just plastering it out because, like it was said in that game, they were 1 or 2 seconds behind the 8 ball of getting there, especially the Highlands players, of cleaning it out. And the guys are saying, well, I've got to get it out or I'm going to get picked up, penalised, and lose control here. So that's got to put a bit more demand on those guys to get to the breakdown fast, get the ball out again. And I guess if you look at the positives, it's going to speed up the game. Ball will be in play and going a bit more. Defences will be a little bit more disorganised. More tries, maybe?
Yeah, look, I think you're right with the halfback thing. I mean, you're going to go to that Gregan mode with the Brumbies, right? Gregan basically went from ruck to ruck to ruck. That was his job. Get the ball, get to the ruck, get the ball out. And if you got a guy that can pass the ball quickly, even better.
A couple of points in. Yeah, maybe Nook's box kicking needs work on. He didn't have to do too much. But with that, I'm happy with that. There, let's keep the box kicking down. The other piece here is one of the points there that Caleb Clark has bulked up this off season. Yeah, it was quite notable watching him and then seeing Bowden Barrett stood just behind him. You're like, actually, if he just stands one step over, you can hide Bowden Barrett behind Caleb Clark. So yes, really impressed by that. I think Papule, he came on and had a good game as well. Was good at the breakdown in my mind, so that all that good balance piece. A player that I was a bit concerned about, and I think it actually came back to hurt the Canes. I thought Garden Bishop actually had a decent game, but when he went off, they moved TJ to 10. They're really lacking that second 10, aren't they?
Well, haven't they got Cameron Fletcher? Is he injured?
Oh, I mean, they've got players. They've got Fletcher Smith.
Fletcher Smith.
Fletcher Smith. Sorry. Sorry. But that's a coach's mistake then, isn't it? Because they went with a 6-2 bench, and I think so. That obviously meant that they were relying on TJ to cover 9 and 10, and so that's a coach's error in having that on the bench.
Yeah, I think they did. So they got Jackson Garden Bishop, Fletcher Smith, and James Marshall, and then also Geordie Barrett would normally cover that area. Obviously, he was injured as well. I think there's also I think they might have been done there to get Artie Surveyor on there. And I think in that on the bench, and again, he's either fit enough to play and claim a place, or he's not fit enough and shouldn't be forced in there just because of just because you want such a name back. For me, either Artie Surveyor gets that. So what is it? Gets that bench spot for the Lucy, but you didn't need Artie Surveyor and Via Fifita both on that bench, one or the other, for my mind.
Well, you're ahead of the game, guys, when you can keep Nani Lamalpi relatively quiet, and I thought he was very, very quiet throughout this game. Well, obviously, we saw a little bit of Ben Lamb, but boy, he was well marked by those two wingers. We spoke about Caleb Clark before, but my God, Mark Talia, seriously, I don't know what does he go out with grease or oil on, because he is as slippery as a nail, that guy.
Yeah, but prior to, I was going to say pre-game, obviously just did a little bit from Eden Park on New Zealand Sport Radio, and I was actually quite fearful of that Canes backline. When you look at that Canes backline, Garden Bishop aside, those guys have all performed in every position. You've got Laumapi, you've got Arso, you've got Ben Lamb, you've got Hoosen, and so those. And I can't remember who was at the back, but
Tietia.
Chase Tietia. I mean, all those guys performed so well, and I actually thought that they probably had an edge in the backline pre-game, but they got shut down big time. Basically, midfield defence just cut that option out wide, apart from one time.
And Caleb Clark had a better game than Hoosen opposite him, and Talia again with Ben Lamb opposite him. Both of them contained their opposite number and also made breaks. So both of them had really good games. TJ Fiani is the person, I guess, you've got to say opposite Laumapi. Made 6 tackles, missed 3 tackles, but hey, at least slowed him down, which I think is.
I was just going to say that, Paul, is the fact is that, when he did miss a tackle, he'd slowed them down sufficiently that meant that Rico would generally come in and finish the tackle off.
Yeah, well, Rico made 8 tackles, missed 3.
Right.
So again, similarly, just get your body in the way and do something. Has some sort of impact.
What I teach my under 9s. Get your body.
Well, at least if those guys, they're not going to deviate your path, are they? When you're up against Murphy and Vince Arce on that, you're just going to go straight up there. And so it really is basic rugby.
Yep.
Yeah, I forget who it was out on the right touchline. I think it might have been Aotearoa Black who got pretty much used like roadkill. Was that Ben Lamb running over him?
But again, Steve, you're right. I know the one that you're talking about, and he did get used like roadkill, and he just ran over the top of him. But what it still did, it slowed Ben Lamb down that the cover could come across and finish him off, wasn't it? Terry Black didn't hold on to him at all, but it still was a judder which meant that the rest of the team could come across and finish off the tackle. Hey, just one thing. I don't know.
No, so according to the stats here, Terry Black 3 tackles all made, didn't miss any. Now,
definitely got run over the top of once. Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, I don't know. You might have coming up in your stats there, Paul, but there's one player that we haven't mentioned, and he just goes out there every time for the Blues and just performs and like out of his skin. That's Tom Robinson. The guy smashed in defence. Some of those tackles that he put in, we cut down. There was like I know a couple of times where the Hurricanes made a slight break, but the next thing you knew, it was dead because Robinson had basically cleaned them up.
Yeah, so I think we mentioned, so 14 tackles. He was the top tackler for in the game, 2 missed. And Offa Tuangafasi with 13, and James Parsons, someone who takes a lot of flack, made 10. And only missed 1. So, and then when we look at the lineouts side of things here, Tom was having fun. We'll forget about 10 lineouts, 13 lost. And that's the Blues. They lost their first lineout, and then they lost those last 2 late on, which was when James Parsons had probably been replaced. Whereas you've got to say, stealing 5 of the 19 lineouts of the Hurricanes again. That's your Tom Robinson. That's your Goodhue. That's your Patrick Tuipulotu. A fantastic day against Dane Coles, first choice All Black line-out thrower. You got to say Blues had a wonderful day at the line-out defensively.
Thanks to guys to Nocturnal Rights. It was Amua who was the guy going down the touchline like a runaway truck who ran over the roadkill, which happened to be Aotearoa Black. That was not a tackle. It was a speed hump.
Technically, yes, there was no wrapping arms in that, was there? Let's be honest. Now, my only criticism, and sorry, we're well over ours, so I was going to take only half an hour for the show. My only criticism for the Blues is, look, time's up. You're 10 points ahead. You're in there 22. Get the ball to kick it out. End the game. By playing on, you gave the opposition the opportunity to score a try and to get a losing bonus point. If they're serious about winning the competition rather than just the game, reduce the points to your opposition. Kick that out.
I was thinking the same thing. At the end of the game. The only thing I can sort of think of is the fact is that obviously with 40,000+ people there, it was sort of a hat tip to the crowd to play a bit more rugby. But you're right. I think in general circumstances, I honestly believe that was the case. I think in general circumstances, you're looking to kick that ball out and finish the game. There's nothing to be won or achieved, I should say, nothing to be achieved by carrying on the game when you're 10 points ahead, because you're not going to get your bonus point try. And as you say, all you do is giving the opposition a chance to get their one losing bonus point.
And I see it as saying the crowd. They should be more professional about what they're trying to do here. They're trying to win the competition. To me, and so I think I think they maybe got carried away with the crowd and with the wanting to rub the Hurricanes' noses in it. I get that from a competitive point of view. But yeah, so congratulations to the Highlanders and the Blues with those 2 wins. Obviously, that puts them. Well, actually, the Blues will be the top of the table on probably on points difference.
Points differential. Yep.
So
But
yes,
there's hope that the Highlanders will be the only undefeated team after the second round.
I think it was the Wooden Spooners playing on Saturday night, weren't they?
second round. Yes, the Highlanders have a bye, so they will go into round 3 undefeated with a 100% record. So next Saturday at 7:00 or 7:05, we have the Chiefs versus the Blues here in Hamilton. And then on Sunday at 3:35, unless they decide to change that time as well, we have the Hurricanes versus the Crusaders down in Wellington. So those are the 2 matchups next weekend. The Chiefs, obviously coming off the back of a loss, taking on the Blues who come off the back of a win. Hurricanes off the back of a loss up against the Crusaders, looking to get their season going. I will be posting my predictions for that on drivingmore.com tomorrow morning. We will have the Driving More show tomorrow evening. That's Monday evening at 8 p.m. And we'll be previewing those games on Friday evening at 8 p.m. when we, with all the squad lists. And we'll see if the Hurricanes go for a 6-2 bench yet again, or if they have learnt anything from this weekend. Thank you very much, Stephen, from the Deep South.
Can I throw in one more question before we depart, even though we're like triple time too long? Mainly for Ashwin, because he was at the game. But what do you think the chances, or what was the general consensus of the people that were actually there, that we could possibly see crowds like this in round 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on in the future of this competition?
Yeah, they interviewed, I think it was Patrick Tupolotto after the game, and he was thanking the crowd for coming out, obviously, as you do, and he said with a giggle, "Hope to see you back in a couple of weeks." So that might have been an indication of what they think the crowd might be like in a couple of weeks, even with a win.
Good to meet you, Paul, anyway, by the way. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. We live in hope. I'll just say that.
Forsyth Bar will be packed. Don't worry about that. Round 3, if they are at home.
I think if they keep the prices the same, guys, $20, keep it free for kids. I think that's probably the way to go. Just a quick one for you, Cornflake. Did they do that down in Dunedin with the pricing? Did they adjust the pricing to suit families, or did they just keep it at standard pricing?
Not as far as I'm aware. Not like the Blues did anyway. Not with the whole promotion of it. So I don't think so. But I mean,
no, they didn't, because there was comments on the radio. Sorry about that. Yeah, there was comments on the radio that they should have done what Eden Park had done. Yeah.
Free with student visa.
And look, we have a crack at various councils. Anyway, look, these are council-run
facilities,
and you got to say for the Auckland final a couple of years ago, they obviously the Eden Park worked with Auckland Rugby Union there to have free entry. So look, I think they are making some. You got to say the Eden Park, whilst it gets a bad rep, and it's not my favourite stadium by any stretch.
It's awesome.
Yeah, working well with the rugby unions there the teams to around that ticketing side of things.
Make a roof.
Yeah. Well, they're just going to put a couple of steel girders across the top.
So thank you, Aldrin.
Sweet. Can I go to sleep now?
You can go to sleep now. See you tomorrow morning for the morning sports briefing at 7 a.m. Thank you, Stephen Harris, who's yawning there on mute. So for the great podcasting and audio recording there. See you tomorrow morning. Thank you, everybody. Good night.